Elena Rybakina has officially declared war on the predatory tennis media, and her silence is deafening. Silence became her most powerful weapon the moment she realized the industry wanted to treat her like a product rather than a person. And this soft-spoken champion from Kazakhstan has finally pulled the plug on an era defined by exploitation. For decades, we have watched the so-called professionals in the press room treat world-class athletes like they are nothing more than content fodder for their failing websites. But those days are officially over. The downfall of the tennis press started the moment they realized they could not break her spirit, and now the media is in total meltdown mode because their favorite target has decided to stop playing their rigged game. The documents prove that this isn't just about a shy player wanting privacy, because this is a calculated strike against a system that has spent years trying to exploit her every move. The truth is that the media doesn't care about the sport of tennis, and they certainly don't care about the humans who play it, which is why they focus entirely on clicks and manufacture drama. When Elena Rybakina sat down at the 2024 French Open and told the room that they were asking simple questions, so she was giving simple answers, she wasn't being rude, but she was being honest. She was calling out the bottom feeders who show up to press conferences without doing a single second of research, and these are the same people who expect a Grand Slam champion to do their jobs for them while they sit back and collect a paycheck. The media tried to frame her as difficult or cold, but the reality is that she was the only person in that room with any real integrity. She saw the trap they were setting, and she refused to walk into it. And that changed when the media's true colors started to show. What happened next was even more shocking than the press conference itself, because after she stood her ground and refused to be a puppet, the media tried to punish her in the most pathetic way possible. During the second week of that same tournament, they didn't even bother to request her for a press conference at all, which was a shameful attempt at a boycott by people who thought they were more important than the champion. They thought they could hurt her brand and her reputation by ignoring her, but they only proved how desperate and irrelevant they have really become. They wanted to make her feel small, but they ended up making themselves look like children, throwing a tantrum in the back of the room. Rybakina didn't care at all, and she went out and did what she does best, which is win matches, while the press corps sat around wondering why nobody was clicking on their boring stories anymore. The media's meltdown didn't stop there, and that's when they started digging into her personal life and her health like vultures looking for a meal. They tried to turn her struggle with insomnia and physical illness into a soap opera for the masses, even though the facts show that Rybakina was dealing with severe physical symptoms caused by the intense pressure of the tour. But instead of showing any kind of empathy, the press chose to interrogate her like she was a criminal. They wanted to know why she looked tired and why she wasn't smiling enough for their cameras, and the result was a toxic environment where the truth goes to die. They treated her like a machine that existed only for their entertainment, and the predatory nature of these questions proved that the industry has lost its way. But the real villain in this story isn't just the reporters with the microphones, because it is the WTA itself and the executives who have created a system designed to squeeze every last drop of profit out of these players regardless of their health. The rulebook is not a guide for sportsmanship, but a manual for exploitation, and the documents prove it. Did you know that a player can be fined $15,000 just for not showing up to talk to the media? Even if they are sick, and even if they have just withdrawn from a tournament because their body is failing them, the system demands they perform like circus animals. We saw this with Emma Raducanu in Rome, where she was forced to do a press conference just 30 minutes before pulling out of the event due to a serious illness. This isn't journalism, and it isn't sports promotion, because the reality is that it's a hostage situation. The WTA cares more about their broadcast partners and their rich sponsors than the actual humans who are sweating and bleeding on the court every single day. And this is where it gets worse. They use these massive fines as a weapon to keep players in line, and they want them to be silent puppets who say the same 5 things every single day. When a player like Rybakina stands up and says no, she's fighting against a multi-million-dollar machine that wants to own her voice and her personality. The WTA has turned the press room into a courtroom where the players are always the ones on trial, and they are forced to answer for their losses and their injuries while the executives sit in the VIP suites collecting their bonuses. The reality is that the WTA playbook is failing, and the industry is starting to distance itself from these outdated rules because they know the players are reaching a breaking point. Aryna Sabalenka has already talked about the mental health toll of these press conferences, and other stars are realizing that they don't need the traditional media anymore. They have social media, and they have their own platforms where they can speak directly to the fans without some biased reporter twisting their words. The middleman is being cut out, and the middleman is absolutely terrified. The press knows that if Rybakina stops talking, they lose their access, and if they lose their access, they lose their jobs and their influence. That is why the attacks on Rybakina have become so vicious and personal lately, because they are trying to destroy her reputation before she can destroy their entire industry. They bring up her former coach Stefano Vukov and try to use her personal struggles against her like a weapon. They act like they are concerned for her well-being while they are simultaneously writing headlines that make her life a living hell. The evidence shows that Rybakina's mother even had to beg her coach not to make her daughter cry. Think about that for a second, because while a mother was trying to protect her child from emotional abuse, the media was busy wondering why Elena wasn't giving them better quotes for their evening news. It is absolutely disgusting, and it shows exactly why she's right to cut them off. The media's accusations are falling apart because the fans can see through the lies, and they aren't buying the narrative anymore. We see a woman who has won Wimbledon and climbed to the top of the world rankings despite the entire system trying to drag her down. We see a hero who refuses to compromise her values for a few cheap headlines, and the villainous press can keep calling her terse or spiky, but the truth is that she is simply protected. She is protecting her peace, and she is protecting her career from people who would love to see her fail just so they could write about the crash. The systemic implications of Rybakina's media blackout are massive, and they are changing the sport of tennis forever. She is setting a precedent that other players are already starting to follow. And if the top players stop showing up to these mandatory press conferences, the WTA will have no choice but to change the rules. They can't fine everyone, and they certainly can't suspend the stars that people pay hundreds of dollars to see. Rybakina is leading a silent revolution that is going to change the face of professional sports. She is proving that you don't have to be a loudmouth or a diva to have power, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing at all. The media thought they could control the narrative, but they forgot one simple thing, which is that they need the players. But the players do not need them. Rybakina has the trophies, and she has the talent, and all the press has is a microphone and a bunch of questions that nobody cares about anymore. Their career and their reputation are in a total free fall because they have spent decades bullying young women for sport, and they finally picked a fight with someone who isn't afraid of them. The predatory press system is a relic of the past, and Rybakina is the one who is finally burying it in the ground where it belongs. The reality is that the WTA and the media have spent years acting like they are the ones who make the stars, but the documents prove that they are just leeches who have been feeding off the hard work of athletes for far too long. The fines and the forced appearances are just the last gasps of a dying empire that doesn't know how to handle a woman with a backbone. Rybakina's decision to cut them off is a sign of strength that is sending shockwaves through the entire sports world, and she isn't just cutting off the media, because she is cutting off the toxicity that has held the sport back for generations. The industry is now scrambling to figure out how to handle a champion who won't play their game, and they are realizing that their old tricks don't work on her anymore. You can't shame her, and you can't intimidate her with a fine, because she has seen the asterisk they have tried to pull, and she has decided she is done with it. The reporters who used to sit in the front row with their smug attitudes are now finding themselves on the outside looking in, and they are realizing that their access was a privilege and they have officially lost it. This is a procedural failure of the highest order for the WTA, and they have nobody to blame but themselves. As Rybakina moves forward, her focus is exactly where it should be, which is on her health and her game and her family. She is ignoring the noise and the lies, and the media can keep screaming into the void, but they are only making themselves look more desperate with every passing day. The hero of this story is finally free from the vultures, and the villains are left with nothing but their own bitterness. They wanted to tear her down, but she ended up building a wall that they will never be able to climb. The era of the WTA betrayal is coming to an end, and a new era of player power is just beginning. The press room is becoming a ghost town, and the executives are panicking because they know the game is up and they can't hide the truth anymore. They thought they could treat human beings like products, and they were wrong. And Elena Rybakina has shown the world that you can be a champion on your own terms. You don't have to sell your soul to the press just to get a trophy, and you don't have to answer invasive questions about your mental health just to avoid a $15,000 fine. You just have to be the best, and she is the best. The media's attempts to frame her as the villain have failed miserably, and every time they write a negative story about her, the fans only support her more. We see the bravery in her silence, and we see the strength in her refusal to be exploited by a failing system. The press is now the one facing a meltdown because they have lost their power over the narrative, and they are no longer the ones who decide who is a star. The fans have decided, and they have chosen Elena because she represents everything that is right about the sport, while the media represents everything that is wrong. The WTA thought they'd destroy Rybakina, but they only destroy themselves.